They really kind of got the 20-cent share, thinking, oh, this is going to deliver $100. I'd love to see that and pull them aside and say, why don't you just chill out a bit and look at something that's more capital growth. Yes, not as racy. You're not going to buy the Porsche off the back of it or whatever, but just have that patience.
Gary can look back on over 4 decades in banking and capital markets, pursuing a career that's taken him from Australia to the US, the UK and New Zealand. Currently serving Executive Director of Structured Capital Management at ANZ since 2002. You've definitely been around a long time in markets.
It's been pretty sticky, mate. That said, I think many people we're seeing longevity these days, not as many changing around. But the heaviest development we had was around 2017, and that's when really we broke our structures up and we were more heavily tranched. And the consequences of that was, one, regulation, and two, the reliance on mortgage insurers.
If you were looking back when you were in the early 20s, what advice would you give yourself in the grown-up business world? Private markets investments are investors can find some real value. I find the best way to learn is learn from someone who's done it before and given it a go. Hi, I'm Travis Miller, host of Grow Your Wealth podcast. Thanks for joining me here today. On these podcast sessions, we're going to talk through how certain investors have navigated the bumpy road of investing, whether it be through business or investments in general. Thanks for listening today. Welcome back to the Grow Your Wealth podcast, where we bring you insightful conversations with industry leaders. I'm your host, Travis Miller, and today we have a very special guest joining us, Gary Sly. Gary can look back on over 4 decades in banking and capital markets, pursuing a career that's taken him from Australia to the US, the UK and New Zealand. Currently serving Executive Director of Structured Capital Management at ANZ since 2002, Gary leads a team responsible for securitisation solutions for bank clients across private, warehousing and public issuance funding. Prior to joining ANZ, he worked in various roles as an issuer and originator with Colonial State Bank, CBA and Credit Suisse. Thanks for coming on, Gary.
Thanks, Travis. Been a pleasure.
You've definitely been around a long time in markets. I started ANZ as a graduate and you were already relatively senior there in the organisation.
It's been pretty sticky, mate. It's been 23 years now. So it's that said, I think many people we're seeing longevity these days, not as many changing around, but we were always stuck over there in the corner, weren't we?
In the glass room. Okay, how about we just start at the beginning? Give us a bit of a summary of sort of your background, what you're currently focused on from a business perspective.
Sure. I guess in some sense an interesting background. So I grew up in the country, out of Gunnedah, prime hardwood area. So Dad was stationed out there. He was Australia Post exec. Yeah. I guess post that, I ambition after school was actually to be a pilot of all things. So I was actually accepted into the Navy air crew of all things, and had a bit of a wait to go in. But then they actually decommissioned our aircraft carriers and therefore the Seahawks that operated at the time. So I was kind of lost. So I was out in the golf course one day and caught up to this beautiful gentleman, and he turned out to be the local bank manager. So he offered me a job. So I thought I'll hit that and just see how I go, and then I'll work out what to do with uni. But in the end, kind of stuck with that and did all my study part-time. So finance first and then finished up with law. So securitisation now. I was about to go and actually practice law. And my treasurer at the time, Mike Hurst, said, I got this thing, securitisation. Do you want to have a crack at that? And, you look at the CV for securitisation, you kind of go, that suits. Yeah. So I could put all those old skill bases together. So the rest is history. But comes with a heavy warning that my kids were never going to do part-time study. It's too much trouble.
You were in that era where you basically just went straight into the local bank and sort of built your way up through the banking world effectively. Yeah,
it kind of started off on the loan side. Yeah. And then I think within 9 months I got sent to the city. So kind of was lucky enough to get into a corporate gig off that, did some corporate advisory work. Wow. And then John Pearce, now obviously CEO at UniSuper, he said, mate, I want you to come across and look after our treasury credit area. So that was my first step into that. Really kind of got a taste for capital markets in that frame, but kind of then came to those crossroads where I thought, well, what do I do? Do I stick with it? Yeah. And of course they gave me a sweetener, and I guess the rest is history.
Perfect. And so what were you like in high school? Were you any good at study, or you must have had a reasonable...
I was going okay, but I always feel, mate, that I probably let my father down in particular. Gunnedah wasn't necessarily that focused on academia. We played every sport that came along. You'd go on school visits and probably play if you weren't playing at least 2 sports, you weren't trying.
Yeah.
So I should have applied myself. It was there.
Yeah.
The raw material was there, but I probably was a bit lax in
It's funny.
how I applied it.
It's funny you say it. I grew up in a country town too, and playing sport. I used to, once a year I'd play table tennis because you'd go from the city to from the country to the city. You'd have a day off school and you have to play table tennis. I was horrendous at it, but it gave me a day to go to the big smoke. It's funny, right?
Well, I was in the school golf team, so I had to lug the golf sticks around. So that was always a challenge. So I had to try and make sure I could play golf and then also represent the school in hockey, of all things.
Yeah, gotcha.
Field hockey. So so maybe we should have been more application.
Fair enough. And so let's talk about, and then obviously you went on to study. Let's talk about the securitisation world, because I reckon I met you in 2001, 2002 area in the sort of 220 Martin Place from memory. And you're already in the securitisation world. And I think of how it's changed, right? We went into the GFC, post-GFC, and again, this is my memory, it did definitely, securitisation had a bit of a smell and went quieter for a period of time. And then it's bounced back to today. It's absolutely booming. Like every property broker in the market these days seems to have their own warehouse vehicle. Do you want to just tell us your journey through the different bumps and sort of changes across that time in securitisation?
Sure, mate. It's quite a story. That's one thing I love the game, securitisation. It does have that dynamic in terms of change, whether it be regulation. We're fairly heavily regulated, not only as a bank, but also as an industry. And then also the markets move all the time. So I like your line. Yeah, you would have seen me in 2002 is actually when I started at ANZ. So by that stage, I'd moved across, if you like. Many said I'd moved to the dark side, coming from an issuer to move over. So we had those basic building blocks. Our structures were pretty simple, to be honest.
Yeah.
The old 2-tranche structure.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Wouldn't help you much these days.
Yeah.
But and then, of course, through the GFC, we then started to develop, if you like, a few things developed, I guess. One, to get the ball rolling post GFC, we really had to go coat and cap in hand to investors.
Yeah.
As you know, it's a people game. So, OFM, yes, came in and helped. They were certainly very helpful. But that was more, if you like, emergency management in that sense, where you had the long-term players like the IFMs and those sorts of guys who bought those subordinated pieces that really then allowed the deals to be made.
Yeah.
So there was that kind of course going through that. And then probably the heaviest development we had was around sort of 2017, 2018.
Yep.
And that's when really we broke our structures up and we were more heavily tranched. So you really then, and the consequences of that was one, regulation, and two, the reliance on mortgage insurers actually was pulled right back. And that's actually been quite gradual as we've gone through the years, as that equation in terms of do I just go a senior sub, in other words, issue tranches, or do I just get some, wrap it up with some mortgage insurance? So it really became a cost comparison from that point of view.
Yep.
So all those kind of developments, and what was great, I guess what I enjoyed, being I guess one of the mature heads, one of the more entrenched, was really you're kind of at the forefront of those changes. So as we move through those trade structures, you're looking for new investors. That was a really exciting component, saying, okay, we used to do like AAA and AA.
Yeah,
let's get excited. And then moving right through to the cap structure with unrated stuff. So you virtually almost had these little cottage industries growing at the bottom of the structure, which you guys know very well these days. So the way, so not only did our market become more mature, we also seen investors really coming along that journey with us, which is, it's been critical to the whole process.
Yeah.
So you're really seeing the day, as we sit here today, probably one of the most liquid markets that I've experienced, most have experienced. And that's both ends. That's senior and mezz through the capital structure. So, in fact, we've probably reached a stage where, in some sense, the junior stuff's easier to put away than senior.
Hey, if you're enjoying this, please subscribe on whatever platform you're using. It helps us build a community. We want to educate investors, and this is what it's all about. It's an interesting point because I know, again, through the cycle, is there's been times when finding the AAA buyers a nightmare, and there's times when finding the junior buyers a nightmare, and it sort of goes in cycles. But yeah, absolutely, at the moment, you can see the market is liquid across all those buckets, which is interesting. And the other thing, just a sort of slight step back, Securitisation is one of those markets where you can have a win-win. Like by tranching, you can often get a lower, weighted average cost of capital for the borrower, but then you can also create different tranches of risk for different types of investors, looking for different risk returns. For certain investors, it must be AAA. Certain investors, it must be investment grade, so whatever BBB minus above. And there's other investors with really broad mandates. But by tapping different buckets of capital, you get your lower, for the borrower, you get the best, kind of lowest is what their ambition is typically, lowest, weighted average cost of capital. And it's pretty unique in that aspect, right? Because if you're a corporate, there's one price for
That's
you.
right.
Whereas if you're a securitised sort of market, there's lots of different ways to cut that cake.
And I think it's one of the more exciting components of that market since then. Finding those pockets and then seeing them grow.
Yeah.
It's not a huge market. Like you get right down to unrated and you might have a handful, so 5 or 6 investors.
Yeah.
But kind of one building the structures for that. And let's not be too egotistical about it. There was lots of premises or precedents for us to draw on, and just making those Aussie-fied, if you like. But then actually encouraging those investors to come in.
Yeah.
And as I say, it's fabulous just to have that range. And it's even curious in these liquid markets that you'll find at times, and certainly I think as an aside, I think we do things better from a banking point of view where we're much more transparent in terms of where the book is. Hopefully that's great for investors. I know they probably want a bit more, but yeah, it's getting pretty clearer. But, we're even finding those moments where you think you've got it right, and then you might find kind of a mid-investment grade, let's call that just BBB flat. You've got 4 and 5 times coverage ratios each side of it, and then for some reason you got 1. So you really got to think back and say, okay, what have we done something wrong? Have we made the wrong call?
It's interesting.
And quite often we're drawing from market.
Yeah.
Or is it just that? And often I think it's just a transition where, because the market has become so competitive in that junior sense, Travis, you kind of got going, okay, well, I was buying BBB, but I've now dropped down. I'm chasing, because there's been such a compression in pricing.
Yeah.
Like I saw single B at 320 yesterday.
Yeah, it's
Getty up. And so I think it's people just moving those mandates from one to the other.
Yeah.
And when you've only got 3 or 5 plays, you're not having got a great deal. So it's an interesting sort of play from that point of view.
I agree. And it's one of the dynamics I'm seeing is that there's a number of it's traditionally been a fixed income fund bank-like market. A number of the private credit funds are stepping into what you would have called more fixed income private market space has been occurring in the last couple of years, which potentially creates even more of a bid for some of those buckets of capital.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
We're often, obviously, private credit's pretty well on everyone's tip of the tongue at the moment. And as you know, we've got the public markets and the private markets. So in that public market, we're not really seeing them cross the line into that. There's a bit of action still on the sides, I think, Travis, more on that kind of whole loan style. To your point, I think because, and particularly the start of this year, we saw the Asia bid really grow for just the general DCM. And then, of course, as you've pointed out, the private credit sort of getting into more of that investment grade space. So, more cash there means I think we've had that more consistent bid where we are.
Yeah. Something interesting, again, I'm coming more from the private credit space, is the securitisation, we'll call it technology, but really it's just a bundle of legal documents and wrapping things up. That technology has moved to the private credit space. So there's private ABS transactions occurring. There's retranching of loans into sort of A and B notes. And so it's that securitisation logic and skill is used across the whole market. And it may not be as seen in the public markets, but simply tranching a single loan into an A and B, that comes from securitisation knowledge and skill set, creating a senior and junior on a single loan to chop and change the risk profile. It's interesting how it's sort of taken over effectively. That logic's taken over a large chunk of the market, and a lot of those people doing those transactions come from the banking securitisation world. Sort of a knowledge base it's getting spread quite broadly.
Yeah, it's a shame it's getting so widespread, isn't it? We try our best to keep it pretty tight.
The cottage industry's gone.
That's right. But it's interesting you say that, and I guess the bit of difference is from a straight securitisation trade is we'll try and bust it up and then we'll find the 2 investors.
Yeah.
Where the private guys are kind of coming in, as you say, they're using those techniques, but they're kind of leading the trade.
True.
It's them that are saying, okay, I'm your sponsor, let's call it.
Exactly right.
And then they'll typically take the juicy part and then find a lazy component for the senior component.
So the fancy wheels of the back leverage, or finding someone to take the senior tranche to enhance the return on the junior tranche, in short.
Exactly. So, but as you say, but I think probably since I mentioned 2017 when our regs changed, and that's when we saw the full tranching come in. So, as you say, our documents have had the benefit of that, and they've flowed quite. And again, our private side originally for that was the warehousing side, where we had to introduce third-party investors to give our non-banks, in particular, that leverage. And so quickly, as my old mantra of senior is senior got severely chipped away. But the beauty is you've got documents now that have those precedents that lend themselves pretty easily to the private credit stuff.
Exactly. Okay, now a bit of personal stuff.
Oy.
Okay, top 3 people who've influenced you. Can be 1 or 2 or 3? Or maybe 4?
Can I go 4?
Yep.
I'm going to combine one. So I obviously got to start off with your family. So my dad, great man. As I mentioned before, he was an Australia Post exec.
Yep.
He worked from divisional offices. That's why we're out of Gunnedah. Did a lot of travel. But I guess from his sense, his moral settings, I guess, is one of the things I always look back on. I put trust in people. And just his work ethic, I think, is really what one of the many things that I carry in terms of what he directed. Look forward, work hard, and be fair, I guess, is another thing. Couple in the middle there, I guess, in terms of when I made that transition heavily into cap markets was when I was at Colonial State Bank and then CBA. I guess 2 great characters that I work with and I really benefited, I think, was a guy called Mike Hurst. Yeah. Mike became the CEO of CBA. I think he's the chair at AMP these days. Mike was one of those first guys I truly describe as, people say outside the square, but he was really outside the cube. Particularly when we're going through M&A stuff, he really said, well, this is what you're looking at. That's your field of reference. But what we've got to look now beyond that. How's an executive level or whatever going to react to that? So, and Mike, I don't know if you've met him, he seemed quite casual, but his ideas are just spot on and sharp. And probably at the same time, the guy that actually moved into our treasurer role was John Pearce, of course, who I've mentioned. And Pearce, he's been one of the smartest chaps kicking around. But I think in terms of him, tenacity was one thing that Pearce left with me in particular. But not just dumb and dangerous. But really think about it, get to the real heart, and just keep on interrogating that till you're okay. Here's the starting point. Yeah. Let's move on from there, which is great. And I think then in sort of developed my career where I am these days, a lady by the name of Ali Gray that used to be the head of our business came across from SocGen. And I still to this day don't think I've found many people who can budget and build a business like she did. Just her knowledge and finding the right people, Travis, in terms of who are my key stakeholders and who actually sits behind that. It was just phenomenal how she'd go, well, I want to do this. I want to get a special internal like FTP rate or something. Who do I need to talk to? And get it done and do it in a way that's quite pragmatic. So some interesting lessons there.
That's pretty good. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode. If you want to learn more about alternative assets, there's a book here you can read, How You Grow Your Wealth with Alternative Assets. Now back to the episode. I mean, it's just touching on John Pearce. You said interrogating questions. I don't know if this is the case, but I find questions are critical when you don't completely understand the situation, because if you ask enough questions, you can kind of pick up whether you're missing something from the responses. An example is I run partly my business is technology, and I'm not a technology expert, but I just continue to ask questions, and then you can kind of see from the response whether I've down a trail, whether they're telling the truth, whether I've sort of found a gap here or I need to dig deeper in something. So that critical questioning, I think, is so important to actually get the real answer. And it's very important with investing. You kind of got to dig and dig and dig and read the body language and keep digging until you actually get the response you want. So I totally get where you're coming from and that sort of lesson that he taught you.
Yeah, I still reflect on some components when I'd come in and he'd be I was working from a couple of different buildings and something had occurred that I thought was a bit weird for the market. So I sat down with him, and again, he didn't necessarily wasn't an expert on our structured side. He just worked through it and thought, okay, we got an action plan from there, which which was great. But and yeah, as you say, from an investing point of view, particularly where you guys play, look, don't get me wrong, the AAA investors, I quite often ask, well, what do you want the pool for? But no, I think particularly since the GFC, the level of analysis has really increased dramatically. And I think some of the best participants that understand cash flows in particular are our mezz investors.
Totally agree. Yeah.
They just say, lift the lid, keep on asking the question. Get to the bottom of it.
My other question is, how big was Gunnedah when you grew up?
Had a big figure 9, so almost 10,000 people. I think in about a year ago they actually hit 10.
I don't know. I just seem to hear a lot of people from Gunnedah around the place, right? Like in business, and I know property developers from Gunnedah, and
oh, really?
I don't know whether it's a town. There's a lot of people that come into the business world, or it's just coincidental that I hear Gunnedah quite a bit.
A few models there as well, mate. So.
Oh, true, yeah.
So, interesting how you bump into. So I haven't been back for years, but
fair enough. And how about and sort of obviously people influence the next question, but 2 or 3 pivotal moments in your career that sort of turn the dial for you?
Oh, look, I've got to harken back to that, where I was just about ready to pull the pin on banking and go into the legal world, and look back now when they sort of offered cap markets. I think that to me was just absolutely critical. We did it pretty hard early because we were back in the late 90s, maybe. I know it's a long time ago, but just the fundamental thing. You talk about documents, even just building basic things. Banking systems in particular were pretty ordinary. The non-banks even were clunky at that time. They obviously developed a lot more since then. So certainly that point in time. I think the GFC, it sounds a bit cliche, I must admit, Travis, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I get a lot of comments from not just people in my team but around going, when something's hit the fan, even though I say the start of COVID, people you still get that impact where people run around virtually with their hands in the air, and you kind of just give us a reaction, Gary. Well, no, this is what we need to do.
Next steps.
So that I think it was very much a learning process when, in some sense, our market was taken away from us. As you say, like the Yanks grabbed it and just purely disintermediated the product. Even my mum said, "What's this securitisation thing?" That came out of that. So, but the learnings we then got in terms of how to bolster the market and really, again, come back to the people. Who do we need to talk to? Where's the trust factor going to be in these people to say, right, you tell us what you need, and can we structure it from there?
I mean, in the hindsight basis, the Aussie ABS market, ignoring the spread widening, right, and if you sold, you took a loss, mark-to-market loss. The Aussie market held up really well during that period for most of those sort of mortgage-backed type, securitisations. Obviously, the synthetic CDO, structured credit type products were impacted, but just this more boring traditional ABS space in Australia, in hindsight, weathered the storm pretty well, right?
Yeah, I think because we were certainly one of the arguments we put forward from the, if you like, call it the marketing point of view, was all our relationships were direct. Our sponsor was the servicer. They're the ones that are going to suffer the issue here if there's losses, and when their NIM's going to suffer, which is all they got left on the table. So I think that direct lending was the key component of that, Travis, when I look back.
Totally agree, alignment of interest. Okay, and so when you get up in the morning, you're telling me where you're living at the moment. It's a pretty nice place.
It's not bad.
But what drives you in business?
Mate, it's interesting. We've had a bit of a reshuffle with some staffing wise this year, resources wise, and just got a new head of the business. Bought someone that really knows our market and even has a sense of humour, which keeps catching me off guard. As you know, I don't mind
in banking.
Yeah, it's I don't mind throwing a pun here and there, but so at the end of the day, I love the people aspect. I love nothing more than finding a new client in particular. Understanding what they want and really taking them, if you like, from that true cradle to the grave. You start them off, whether it be a brand new warehouse or a complementary one, but taking them through that journey into the public markets. Taking them out on road shows. It is quite tiring these days, but from a mental component, you don't get tired of it. I just love that. It's that focus for me. Is if I clear one is I want to be the trusted advisor. from that point
Yeah,
of
I
view.
can totally say that. It is that. ABS is perfect for this because you can start small and build up. I look back at when I first started this business 80 years ago. There's a group called EdStart who does loans to parents of private school kids. Another group, OMM, does consumer lending. And so the first facilities I did were 5 and 7 million. They've both grown up now to sort of one's well over 100, and one's coming up to a couple of billion. And just doing that first 5 mil and watching them, and we worked together for 3 to 4 years, and then they got up to the grown-up world of CBAs lending their money. But it's sort of a nice part of the journey to watch them go from sort of startup to grown-up, and now they've got sort of quite high valuation businesses that they're running. It's an interesting part of the journey.
That is fantastic, that growth, and that's what at the end of the day, that's what you're there to achieve. And but it's those fundamental relationships that build that. If I find if someone's told me something or given us information that's it's not going to pass the sniff test, it has a fundamental impact on that relationship. So not only is it the people, it's also you saw platforms. What am I doing there? What's my due diligence on that? I've got a great idea, but a great idea doesn't get you from your $5 to them with a 2-yard portfolio.
Correct. Yeah, it was two sides, right? You got to fund yourself, and you got to originate. And so there's two sides. Okay, now if you were looking back when you were, let's talk early 20s, what advice would you give yourself in the grown-up business world?
In the business world, I think personally wise, I probably would have told myself what everyone told me, including my advisors from the Defence Force, was to go back to school probably. It was, but no, I think in terms of business wise, I think I should have just nipped the bud and gone to uni and got that done. I think back in, when I look back in that period, it would have been quite easy then post that to get into banking, which that short time I had, I really enjoyed that. It was very tiring doing part-time stuff, particularly stuff like law, So on one hand, we're developing documents for securitisation. On the other hand, I'm off reading bloody books wrapped in human skin from England in terms of case law. But so I think it was more, be harder on myself and say, nip it in the bud, go and do this.
Totally agree. I was saying to my kids the other day, there's an easy path if you want to go into finance banking. What you do is you do really well in year 12, and then you get to go to a good university and a good degree. You do really well in that, and then you can walk into any of the banks because they'll put you on a grade program and you cruise off and running. The other path is you zigzag your way. And if you're good at what you do, work hard, do all the right things, do some networking, you'll probably get there anyway. But there's definitely an easy path.
Definitely.
And it's been well trodden over the years. And the recruitment people from the banks, they look for exactly that methodology most of the time.
No, totally agree. And I look back and think, great life now, beautiful family, that sort of stuff. So there's no regrets from that point of view. Given the path, who knows where I would have been if I was around flying planes and dropping bombs. So it would have been quite a different world. But but no, and exactly, and it's what we see. The quality of grad that we're getting these days. There was a period there where everyone, doesn't matter where they come from, what their background was, he or she, they all kind of were like all the same. Where now we're getting these kids that are coming through the system. They've all got different backgrounds.
That's great.
They've got a better balance. Like you can give them tasks straight away and they get into it, and their intuition's actually really good. So I think we're seeing a bit of that. Gotcha. It's a great learning ground. So
perfect.
Well, I must say I did freak out the other day. One of a sales guy who I used to love and you probably knew well, he's since retired, but his daughter's now on the same sales desk. She came through our grad program.
That's. I think I might know that is actually. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's
well, that's the age bracket, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the early 20s are sort of ultimately our kids. So
it's really interesting. So
Hey, if you're enjoying this, please leave a review. It's really important to us. We're trying to build momentum around education, and better reviews will get more people coming and listening. Okay, a couple of bumps in the road. When have you tripped?
Oh,
well, the answer is never, right? But
it's good. Again, I think I hailed back to that education side. Even that's a long time ago, Travis. Nothing like going to a law degree as a mature age student, I must say. Bit of fun from that, but imposition on life. I think mine's probably, as I'm getting towards retirement now, it's probably, I probably shouldn't have been as conservative as I am. I'm just immensely conservative. I must hate, guys with platforms like yours or financial advisors going, oh God, here comes this guy again. He's boring as bat.
Yeah.
I think what I look back now, and I should have been less patient in terms of not necessarily risky investments, but probably, particularly these days with things like ETFs and that, and managed funds, and doing a bit more of that. I thought I was long property anyway, but I probably could have done a bit more on the property side.
Yeah.
And maybe that regret to some extent, or bump, let's call it, wasn't regret, is now that my kids are getting that age, I'm thinking, well, how are they going to buy a bloody house?
Yeah.
So it's more that, could I have done something earlier to prep for that? I guess. More on the personal side. Business-wise, a tough one. I think I can't think of anything that sticks out. You've always, quite often, given it's a structured market or because it is a dynamic market, we might have gone the wrong direction at times. But nothing really sticks out that we couldn't turn away from where you kind of look back and go, oh.
It's funny you say about investing. Lots of people I chat to say, sure, wish I'd started investing earlier. I wish I'd done more of this, but it's hard to change your personality, right? It's hard to change. Okay, if we look at sort of definition of success, if you look back on your career, what are you gonna say? You think you did well or was successful?
Yeah, look, I hope mine's sort of legacies. I guess what people call it, but that phrase trusted advisor, I know it's bandied around a bit. Banks love it.
Yeah.
But when there's actually evidence of that, even a small one the other day, one of our clients I think I've banked them since about 2004.
Gotcha.
We increased their facility. I thought it took too long, and yet they turned around and, unbeknownst to us, talk to all our seniors and give us all this credit for doing it. So, and they're one that goes, well, we come to you first.
Great.
And so to me, from a banking point of view, that's kind of success from that sort of stuff. And the other thing I hope sort of hangs around is you mentioned things like, not really involved in the industry, because I think we do have something to add.
Yeah.
Our industry is great, but you think it's got so many players. You've got all the service providers. So there's always different mouths to feed from that point of view. So hopefully we can bring a balance being the major, because we've got the most flex, but we do see such a variety of things that we can hopefully add things to the market where someone might want to, let's do this, and let's just pull back and think about that. Yeah. And of course the other thing I just, as you know, I don't mind a chat, so lecturing I love. And it's getting that generation where I've been doing it for a while now, where you kind of I go into a roadshow and someone will go, oh, I know you. And I go, your first reaction is kind of, oh, okay. Yeah. And then it turns out that they were fortunate enough to be in one of our lectures. So it's been a good
I mean, I can see I've got 5 of our ex-colleagues work in the iPartners business. They all talk very fondly of you, right? So just leaving that message, I think is pretty interesting. But when you're a originator, so working in the line we work, getting the first phone call and having the last right is really all you can do in a way, right? Like you want to have the best relationship, so you get the first call. And then if your pricing or your terms are not sort of what they're seeing, they can ring you back up and say, look, mate, you're not quite there. Do you want to have a chat about improving, changing? That's when you've got a really good relationship. I think you've done a good job. So if you're getting the first phone call, it's a pretty decent tick.
Yeah, and it is great. We're quite pride myself on that kind of stuff, and I think the beauty is about that first call as well. Quite often it mightn't necessarily be for a brand new trade, but it might be, we're thinking of going down this path with a new product. What do you think that's going to do? What ramifications could that have to our trade already? And you can give them some fairly blunt, that's fairly sales driven. Yeah, let's stick to our knitting, or okay, we might be able to compensate you. Allow that in there. Small, let's do a test run and that sort of stuff. So
I can see you lecturing. I look back in the days when we worked together. It was very unusual for someone to come out of that fishbowl. Because we were out on the floor in the sort of markets, derivatives type section. We used to look through that window and wonder what everyone was doing. And you just wander across and chat to the team, say hello. You'd be out with social events and various things. So it's very different to what the norm in those days.
I think that comes from that hardcore markets or treasury background. We're always, regardless of where I've been, curiously enough, that capital markets function has always sat within the broader markets area.
Yeah.
And in some sense, we needed you as well, right? We had to swap trades and those sorts of things.
True.
swaps in those days, mate, weren't they fun?
It was pretty interesting.
Things have changed.
Yeah, with the amortising sort of swaps was pretty interesting stuff in those days.
Nothing like a good
modelling the cash flows and then having to adjust them every month. It was pretty cool stuff. Okay, a couple of short, sharp ones. What was your first job?
First job, come from country boy, so would have been while I was still at school. We'd go and do the harvest stuff.
Yeah.
So jump on a tractor truck, wheat, just get up with the sparrows. Curiously, get picked up, get thrown to the back of a ute, which these days, the driver get put away for life. But and then just get all this cash. It was fantastic.
Is that the old hay carting sort of stuff? Yeah.
Or just following, headers actually taking the wheat off. You'd follow them with a bin on the back and take it off to the silo and that sort of stuff. So,
piece of advice for younger self. We touched on this earlier. But what's one thing?
One thing, mate.
Or other way to put it, what would be a tip for someone else?
Oh, okay.
One tip.
Can I have that one? Yeah. I think patience. I do see, particularly with all the different generations that are in teams now, and particularly even in our team, a lot of that, the newer ones, they are just so aggressive with what they want to do. A lot with their spare cash. Now, I know you can turn around and go, particularly super wise, it's a timing thing, and they've got time to rebuild.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff, it's just you kind of go, you're really that racy? They've really kind of got the 20-cent share, thinking, this is going to deliver $100.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that, pull them aside and say, which I have done a couple of times, go, why don't you just chill out a bit and look at something that's more capital growth? Yes, not as racy.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy the Porsche off the back of it or whatever, but just have that patience to think, okay, let's just get in something. Yes, it can still be racy.
Yeah.
The beauty with it, and again, we talk about your side of the biz where you've got managed funds. You can actually get down to that, higher yielding sort of categories that make it worthwhile. I guess.
Yeah. Get rich quick rarely works.
And probably the other thing for me is not a one-liner would have been, regardless of anything, finish my pilot's license.
Yeah, true.
Given that was an early wish, I did actually. I think I got about 30 hours up at one stage, but then life moves on.
It's good. What motivates you most as a person?
Oh, I guess these days you've got to say family.
Yeah.
But it's also, just enjoying that. And as you say, with the new place out at Newport, beach has always been part of our life. I'm lucky enough that I can take the board out, go and splash around and make a fool of myself with the missus. She'll sit on the sand and just relax.
Can you surf?
I can, but I'm not doing much at the moment. But and looking forward, I've been across already. So
how many blokes from Gunnedah can surf?
Yeah, not too many you hear about. But that said, we always had a place I grew up on. I was born on the north coast, so we always had a place down there. So go down and bash down there. So
fair enough. Tips for long-term wealth.
Again, can I use that word patience again?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, mate. In terms of getting into something that's good down there, good solid capital growth. Doesn't have to be boring.
Yep.
You can be a bit racy if you want. Try and do that outside your super fund.
Yep.
And build that from there.
And when you're not working, so it sounds like you do a bit of surfing, hanging out with the family. You play golf. What else do you get up to?
Yeah, I honestly, at the moment, I've just it was pretty late in life. I've discovered photography. Yeah. So for some reason, everyone says I seem to have a keen eye. So
that's great.
Everyone seems to say that a lot. So I really enjoy it. It's I'm part of a group. We founded a group called the Australian Photography Masters, and so. I just, you bring that social aspect to it, but I've got guys that doing this stuff for 30 and 40 years, so you just got to be like a sponge and soak it all up. So.
Yeah. And what do you take photos of?
Mainly landscape seascape.
Yeah.
So being on the northern beaches, kind of sport
the
material, which is good. Get a wave, get a bit of flow. We look for colour, so clouds are good for us. But so pretty keen on that. And fortunately for me, my wife. Jo loves, she supports it, which, it's because they say you marry the body and you then you divorce the lenses, so or something like that. Maybe it's fall in love with the body and marry the lenses. It's a pretty expensive habit, but it's great. We've been able to combine it these days with lightweight lenses together with all the pro stuff. So we do a lot of hikes and trekking. So you put the lighter stuff in and you kill,
of course.
Kill the two birds with two.
So you're not getting out the iPhone and clicking, you're a little bit past that.
Yeah.
Got the proper equipment.
You probably find me frowning behind the camera when someone comes out with the Insta view.
Fair enough. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Mate, been a pleasure, really, yeah. Quite humbling to be asked, so it's great.
That's great. If you're interested in connecting with Gary, you can do so on LinkedIn. We'll include the link in the show notes. Thanks again. Appreciate it, chat.
Thanks, Travis.
Hey, if you're enjoying this, please leave a review. It's really important to us. We're trying to build momentum around education, and better reviews will get more people coming and listening.